Humans Don't Make Good Familiars, Book 3, Chapter 17, Udoka Sopra's Point of View. Perched in my office, I could hear wing beats and subtle chanting from outside the wall. It was Laris, my attendant. The vines pulled themselves back and he flew in, landing on a perch opposite mine. At the moment, I was eating, but knew that he would be stopping by with an update on Lady Suma and Sir Jake, who had recently come back to the city from their tour in the army. "Grand Duke Sopra, I have a report," Laris said. He was new and was still overly formal with me. I told him just to call me Sir Sopra, but he was uncomfortable with that, even though he was a noble as well. He was of a much lower station and doubted himself too much. "Go ahead," I said, swallowing and turning away from my meal. It was a special treat today, too, my first meat that I had in months. "Lady Suba and Sir Jake have spent the last 2 days skating around town. So far they've—" He stopped himself, catching his contraction. They have visited a few people. Jake has named 2 peasants, 1 blacksmith, Seal, and 1 researcher, Selakar." "What kind of researcher?" "Recently she began studying the effects of inversion magic on runes. Jake was likely there to sell more to her. However, she put in a request today to change her topic of study to a new runic language." "More of Jake's influence, no doubt. I look forward to hearing more about what she is able to discover. What about the blacksmith?" I asked, glancing over to my boar-elk meat. "An elderly Niema, close to retirement. Probably the one who the nobles harassed last year. He was the Niema who made Jake's weapon, if I remember right." "It seems he brought his weapon to the blacksmith for repairs." "And what of Suba?" "She visited her parent. Nothing abnormal there. However, Jake later also visited her, and now the mother is going to appear before you to declare her name," Laris said. "That sounds about right," I chuckled. I'd kept tabs on Jake and Suma, even while they were in the army, so I knew that even in basic training, Jake was still naming Niema, though for some reason he started to go by his familiar's names for a while. However, once they joined the Drakes, having them watch became impossible. Thinking about what had happened with Seal and how I had to fight back the nobles' constant protests at him being named familiar, suddenly my appetite began to fade. No Niema would look forward to going through that again, and surely it would be 100-fold worse the second time. Nobles love to do 2 things, whine and preen. I was a noble, now with my position as Grand Duke. I no longer have any claim to my former title, but that is fine with me. I was never suited to it anyway. I wonder how good an ally they would make. Their meeting with the Queen ended well, though they've made more than a few enemies in the royal court. I thought, remembering the rumors about a failed assassination attempt. They have a few friends here, but having the Queen on their side, and thus mine, would be immensely useful. "Your order, Grand Duke Sopra," Laris said, snapping me out of my thoughts. "No changes, but send them both an optional request to speak with me here at the sanctum after Suma's mother's ceremony." "Very good, sir," Laris said, and spread his wings. "Before you go, what's the mother's new name?" I believe it is Luna." "A good name," I said. With that, Laris left, and I resumed my meal, though it no longer tasted quite as good as it had before. "So he named her mother," I said aloud, thinking to myself of my own family, and what led to me becoming the Grand Duke of Zack Asham. Before, I was the only son of Earl Unkar Sopra, an evil, spiteful, and hate-addled man that would never be pleased. The only times I can recall ever seeing my father pleased was when it was with himself. For the first 2 years of my life, he forced my mother to raise me. Then, on my 2nd birthday, he brought me to his estate, and I never saw my mother again. She was a nameless Niema, and he had killed her afterwards. But because of the situation, he faced no punishment, at least not until I gained my position. The day I became Grand Duke, I ordered several investigations to be opened into my father's affairs, all of which I knew about beforehand from years of living with him. Over 50 counts of theft, 10 counts of murder, including my mother, and 19 counts of fraud and bribery. For his crimes, I pushed for the death penalty, not to protect myself, but for revenge. Revenge for myself. In truth, I barely remember my mother, so I was so young when I was taken after all. There were several reasons that could have applied, and did in a small way, to my seeking revenge. His abuse, his corruption, his mistreatment of everything. But in truth, it really was about what he did when he found out I'd mated with a peasant. He said he was protecting me from making the same mistake he did. He told me to be grateful, because if the other nobles found out, they would have ridiculed me or shunned me. I never found her body, or the egg. But what I did find was a group of transmutation specialists to perform his execution. They turned him to stone, and I buried his statue at the base of Mount Vafna, just north of the peasant's home. Sure, dozens of other nobles were also arrested and executed alongside him, but they all got death trees and funerals. My father will get what he deserves when the dragon returns. Nothing. Of course, all of that, I was left with more enemies than friends. Yes, maybe they would make good allies. End of chapter. Atharia, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.